Disney and Pixar's Soul, streaming on Disney Plus December 25th.
Music is all I think about. From the moment I wake up in the morning to the moment I fall asleep at night. I was born to play. It's my reason for living.
So we see in the film that Joe is a music teacher, and you can tell that that's kind of his, I guess, backup choice to wanting to be a professional musician.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like anyone who's in a field like that or anything like ours, you constantly worry like you have to have a backup job almost.
Yeah.
Just starting out in your career, did you ever have like a job that was, to pay the bills, or if you thought if the writing didn't work out, did you have something in mind that you would do?
Oh yeah. I mean, constant jobs. I mean, I grew up in Texas, so I got jobs really early on, and it was always so I was kind of used to always having like some kind of second job while I tried to pursue what I wanted to do. Granted, I didn't know that I wanted to be a screenwriter, but when I graduated from NYU, I had so many of like odd jobs, just trying to pay the rent and just trying to make time for myself to write. But I was fortunate in that I ended up as a journalist, an entertainment journalist, and I was the managing editor of Filmmaker magazine for a number of years. And then I was also the executive editor of IndieWire. And so that gave me access to films and filmmakers. And it also it was during, the mid 90s, and when independent film was really finding its feet. And there was this idea that you didn't need permission to make movies, that you could just do it. And so that odd job while I was writing also kind of gave me the courage to just write it and try to make it myself. Yeah. And I just take so much from all the odd jobs I've had in my life too. They've all influenced everything.
Is there one that stands out above the rest?
Odd jobs. Yeah, there was one. There was when I was in high school, I worked at the 50/50 Bar and Grill in San Antonio, and I washed dishes there. And my little dishwashing place, the Hobart machine, was right next to the shuffleboard table. And so the owner said, like, look, if there's going to be a fight tonight, it's going to happen over the shuffleboard table. So you have to get between them so they don't kill each other, and wait for the bouncers who are at the front of the place to come back and kick them out. And sure enough, like, there was so many fights over the shuffleboard table. Like, who thought? Like, alcohol and shuffleboard always ended up in a fight in some way. And so, and I loved it. And I would burst out of that I had it was a horse door. So half the door was open, always check out. And whenever I heard something happening, I would rush out there. And like, I'm not a big guy. I'm pretty skinny. And I was skinnier back then. And so I would try to get two Texans and try to say, no, guys, don't kill each other. And then the bouncers would come and kick them out. I love that job.
Hello? What the? Wow! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Help! I'm not done! Holy! Oh my goodness! This weird. The council. There's a soul missing. Is this heaven?
No.
Is it H-E double hockey sticks?
Hell?
Quiet coyotes. No, it's the great before.
This is where
there's a moment in the movie where Joe sits at his piano and he pulls out all of those objects, right? And he kind of plays his life. And he, in that moment, kind of redefines it for himself. And he redefines like what's important and what means more to him. And I wrote that scene when my father was dying, which was in the process of passing away at a nursing home in Texas. So I would fly from Pixar to Texas, and I would be with him, and then fly back. And took many months, but I was with him when he passed. I was holding his hand, but during that time, I was thinking, what's important to him? What is he thinking about during this time? Is it important to him that he had a successful career? Is it important to me that I have a successful career? Or is it the fact that I'm there and holding his hand that is maybe so much more important than any of those career achievements? And that stuck with me. That stuck with me a great deal. And so I went back to Pixar and really wrote that sequence based on, what I was feeling about my father and what we are going to take with us when we ultimately face that end. And I felt like that's what Joe needed to discover.
And I'm gonna find you.
Well, something that I really thought was funny in the film that I really liked was how 22 has all these like soul mentors,
Yeah.
greats like Abraham Lincoln and Mother
Yeah.
Teresa. If you got an option, like if you were, losing your spark or down on your passion, and you could have any choice of a soul, living or dead, to mentor you, which soul would you like to kind of inspire you back?
Oh gosh, that's a good one. I've never been asked that before. That's a hard one too. Well, I got inspired to write by watching the movies and reading the plays and going to the plays of Horton Foote, who was a Texas-based. Well, I mean, he all of his was based in Texas. He wrote Tender Mercies with Robert Duvall. He won the Academy Award for that, and he won the Academy Award for To Kill a Mockingbird with Gregory Peck for writing the screenplay for that. All of his work affected me deeply because he wrote about the way people really speak to each other and what they don't say to each other and what they hide. And there's a particular kind of South Texas or Texas-like cadence to it. And I mean, he was raised in Wharton, Texas, and so I immediately gravitated to his work. And I'm very seldom starstruck where I can't go up and talk to somebody. I did see Horton Foote in a theatrical production of a play of his, and I could not bring myself to go talk to him because I was so horribly nervous. So I would imagine I would really love to have that kind of voice, guiding me in some, place, space, and time.
Yeah. No, that sounds like a good one.
Mm.
Another thing I really loved about the film is how it makes you remember that we should be appreciating the little things in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I know that like a good cup of coffee can just make my day. That'll
Right.
do it for me. But is
Yep.
there anything, what's like a little thing in your life, just the little things that really makes you appreciate life?
Well, right now, I mean, it might sound cliche, but watching my children grow up is pretty amazing. Watching my children grow up reminds me of stuff that I had long forgotten or buried. There's that old saying where when you're in college and when you're in high school, Christmas kind of fades, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't really mean a whole lot. Christmas
Yeah.
comes swarming back when you have kids because they're experiencing it, and they're experiencing it as you did, as I did. So like I just love seeing and reliving things that little moments like that. They constantly surprise me. I think if I were just by myself, I really love the ocean. I love the water. I love swimming. So
Yeah.
it would be, there's a moment in Soul where Joe kind of digs his hands rather his feet in the sand and lets the water wash over them. I think anybody can kind of immediately, once you watch that image, feel it themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just constantly overwhelmed by how beautiful life can be in terms of kind of grand landscapes. I love Yosemite. I love hiking, and just to take it all in is something that both Pete and I, we often hike together. We both just love. So just getting out of my head, getting out of myself. Any chance I can get out of my head and get out of myself, I'll take.
It's my life. Can you help me get back? Come on.
This won't be a disaster, that's for sure.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie was actually when Joe gets his haircut, sits down with his hairstylist, because, well, couple of reasons. My mom's a hairstylist, and I think you depicted that really well, because she says that she feels like a therapist to anybody who sits in that chair.
Yeah.
But also I love that we're getting to see just how important it can be to ask the people in our lives questions and listen to them and what you can gain from that. Why do you think it's so valuable to be asking questions to the people in our lives and getting to know what's going on with them?
I think it's important to know humanity. I think it's important to know that people sometimes go through similar things that you've gone through. Any sort of deep connection that I have had with my friends comes from a shared experience, a shared emotional experience. And when you're sitting with, let's say, a barber having your hair cut, you kind of can't help but go there sometimes, particularly with certain, incredible personalities. And I'm the kind of person that if you let me, I will let you into kind of some deeper, sad stuff,
Yeah.
for better or worse. But and sometimes I'm met with a reciprocal, emotion from that person, and I love those connections. So I think as much as we can share our experience and realize how similar sometimes we are all living, and how similar what we are all going through when it gets hard, the less alone we feel, because that's probably the most important thing in this life, is to not feel alone, right?
Yeah.
So,
No, that's so true. And I think that is when you can relate to somebody and understand that they're going through, and it also helps you put a perspective on your own problems. When you think your problems are
yeah,
just so bad, you're like, hey, everyone
yeah,
has it.
true.
Yeah. Well, there's also a moment, not giving so much away, but where we see that maybe sometimes our dreams can come true, what we think is our dreams, and it
hmm
won't be that same feeling that we thought was going to happen. Have
hmm
you ever experienced anything in your life where you thought this was going to be this life-changing, amazing moment, but it just wasn't quite what you expected?
Well, I think working in the entertainment industry, I am writing things for an audience to react to, right? And so I am always trying to kind of get that reaction, whether it's emotional in one direction or the other. And so I think when I first wrote a script, there was a script called Even Hand that played at South by Southwest. And I mean, it's the moment you wait for, it's the moment your work is finally in front of an audience. And I remember, feeling afterwards, just like I didn't feel what I felt I thought I should be feeling, but I had no frame of reference for what I should be feeling either.
Yeah.
It's these moments that we build up into something, and we think we're going to get there, but it left me kind of not empty, but confused about what I feel like I should have gotten from this moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so where I came to it from was, I feel like I'm just putting way too much emphasis on what I should be doing, rather than putting the work out there and letting the work speak for itself. And from that point on, I kind of came at my role in a new light,
Yeah. No, it's so true. Because I wonder too, like, if that kind of comes back to is there always going to be something more? Are we always, even when we get the things
right?
that we want, are we always going to want more? Or, I mean, but
hmm
like you said, watching your kids enjoy Christmas,
stuff is in your
maybe it's
body.
things like that that's
hmm
actually more
No smell, no
satisfying
taste.
than,
Or touch.
No, I
See?
think we at the end of our when we're looking back on the summation of our life, I think we have to think about, what are we going to take with us, or what are those moments where we're going to kind of nest ourselves in. And I feel like I have a better understanding of that, now,
yeah.
in my 40s, for instance, than when I did in my teens or 20s. And
Right.
that was through just living life, experiencing where I felt the most during particular moments, and just remembering that, and then kind of redefining what's important to me.
Disney and Pixar Soul.
Get ready. Your life is about to start.